I didn't touch this cluster yet. I just scanned it, and it told me in one table every door that's open. Just minutes later, I was root on the machine underneath the container, reading the node's own files and lifting a live cloud credential off it. One over-permissioned pod, no zero day, no malware. And here's the thing about Kubernetes. The tool a defender runs to find the problems is the exact same tool an attacker runs to find their targets. Today we find out exactly how to scan a cluster properly with Trivy, how to turn those findings into real container escapes, and how to shut down every step along the way. All on a throwaway cluster. Let's go. One idea underpins the whole video. Most people picture a cluster like this. Sealed little boxes, each isolated, each safe, but that model's wrong, and it's dangerous. A container is not a tiny virtual machine. It's a process on a shared house wearing a costume. Kubernetes by default hands each of those processes an identity, a network path to the API, and sometimes a route straight onto the machine underneath. So when I hack the cluster, I'm not defeating Kubernetes. It does exactly what it was designed to do. Almost everything I show you is either a default or a misconfiguration, not a bug in Kubernetes itself. As much as this lab is fake, the misconfigurations here are actually the ones running in production right now. Let's talk about the lab quick, because this isn't the point of the video. However, the lab is called Kubernetes Goat, and it's made by someone called Madhu Akula. It's a deliberately vulnerable cluster, and I'm running it on a throwaway managed cluster on DigitalOcean in my case that I'll destroy at the end of the video. To get set up, first let's clone Goat, let's run the setup and wait for all the pods to spin up. Then finally we run the access script that gives us access to all of the things running on the cluster. One gotcha that cost me about an hour. The SSRF scenario at the start of this uses a service called Helm. If Helm isn't installed, it'll silently skip through and it looks as though the install's broken. So remember to install Helm first. 3 rules, and I genuinely mean all of them. This thing is actually dangerous. Anyone who reaches it can get root on your node, so remember to run it on an isolated cluster and destroy it as soon as you're done. Number 2, the access script binds to all interfaces, so anyone on your network can hit it. Keep it off untrusted Wi-Fi. And number 3, doing any of this to a cluster that you do not own is a crime under the Computer Misuse Act. Your lab, your cluster, or written authorization. There's no fourth option. Right, with all of that covered, let's get to scanning it. So the first move on any cluster, whether you're attacking or defending, is to scan it. And the tool I reach for is called Trivy. People know Trivy for scanning container images, but one thing changed the game, and it's Trivy K8s. It scans a whole cluster in one pass. Image CVEs, misconfigurations, RBAC configuration issues, secrets, all done in one go. So the first command that we can run is simply a summary. One command and look what comes back. We've got vulnerabilities in the running images, misconfigurations, and there's a privileged workload lit up in red, exposed secrets, and an RBAC assessment. That is the entire attack surface in a single table, and I've not sent a single malicious packet yet. Then we can narrow it down, because a wall of findings doesn't help anyone. So let's first filter by severity. And just like that, we've got the critical and highs from the cluster, but how about we want a specific namespace in full detail? And then we've got a full report about any misconfigurations or secrets within our default namespace. And Trivy still does its classic job better than anything else out there, scanning images for CVEs. So we can grab an image that the cluster's already running and then run that through Trivy. We can see in this image specifically, we've got a number of CVEs, and the ignore unfix flag is actually the biggest noise reducer going. When this is set, it ignores any CVEs that don't actually have a patch available, so anything on here is actually patchable and is good to report to a customer. And here's a bit I really love. You can actually just scan your Kubernetes config files without actually having any connection to the cluster, and it'll let you know whether any vulnerabilities exist within the configs themselves. And immediately after running that, we've already got a number of misconfigurations, again, that can all be immediately reported. And here's a bit that a lot of defenders love, and it's that Trivy already has all of the benchmarks built straight into it. So we can run a CIS benchmark compliance review. And 2 honest notes here so this video doesn't just rot away. If you find Cube Hunter in any old tutorials, just skip it. The company who makes Aqua Security has effectively moved all of that over to Trivy. 2, Trivy isn't the only game in town. kube-bench is still the literal reference for the CIS benchmark standards at the node and kubelet level, and kubescape adds something that Trivy does not, and that's mapping all of these findings to the MITRE ATT&CK framework. So let's get on to the fun bit. Let's actually attack our cluster. So dot number 1, the scans flagged an app as reachable. When we're taking a look at this, this is a perfect example of a server-side request forgery bug. There's a little bit of creative license here because the Kubernetes cluster itself doesn't have a metadata URL. But if this was running on AWS, this would work. So when I submit this, you see we've got latest. So let's step into latest. Now we've got a folder called secrets. So let's go into secrets. Now we've got a file called Kubernetes Goat. And there is a secret, base64. Decode it, and we're done. In the cloud, you will point this at 169.254.169.254 for instance credentials. In Kubernetes, you point it at internal service names because the cluster has its own private network where everything answers by name. Door 2, and it's the one that makes Kubernetes special in the worst way. Every pod gets handed an identity, a service account token, mounted right inside of it. I didn't steal this, Kubernetes delivered it right into the pod. And I'll demonstrate this from a pod that I already have a foothold in. And in a real engagement, this foothold would be code execution in a vulnerable app or dependency. So within a Kubernetes pod, you can go to var run and secrets. And in here, you'll be able to see the Kubernetes folder. You'll have a service account, and within here, you can actually get the token of the service account. And there it is. There's the token sitting at a known path in every pod. I copy it, and now I can be this pod against the API. So now that we've found a new identity, what's the first thing that any attacker then asks? And it's, what can I do with this? Who am I? So I'm going to set up this little helper called kexec. So instead of having to switch my actual Kubernetes tokens to this new one that we've hijacked, we get to run this through each command automatically. So we can run kexec off who am I, and we'll see that we're running as this service account in the big monolith namespace. And that's the one that we just stole from within that pod. So that shows us who we are, but how do we find out what we can do? Well, we can actually run now kexec off can I and list. And this will list out everything that we're able to do. So we can see we can create things, we can get things. And you can see that we've got get across all of the APIs. And if we've got get across all of the APIs, what does that mean? It means we've got get across all of the secrets. And here's what a lot of people forget. You don't need admin to win. A handful of ordinary permissions are game over on their own. If you can get all list secrets, you can pull secrets and permissions of other pods within the cluster. If you can create a pod, then you can create one with either higher levels of permissions or one that's able to reach back into the host running Kubernetes. If you have the escalate on your roles, then you can give yourself permissions you don't already have. If you have bind on your roles, you can just bind cluster admin to yourself. And if you have impersonate, well, you can just impersonate whatever permission you want. So in my example, this pod actually has that first one. But watch what read secrets is actually worth. You can run kexec get secrets, so you can see whatever secrets that we're able to access with our new permissions. A full API key and a webhook key, read by a pod that had no business touching them. 1 over permission service account of the cluster secrets are all mine. And you can check how far it goes. Is this one namespace or the whole cluster? On a lot of real clusters, that read all is cluster wide, and one pod becomes every secret everywhere. Tools like RBAC Police and Kubescan map these routes out for you. Blue teams use them to plug the holes, red teams use them to hawk them. On number 3, and it's the pod that lit up red during our first scan. This is my ladder to jumping out of the container and onto the host. So we're in that overprivileged container now. How do we go about validating what capabilities it's got? So we can run that, and what that output means is essentially that we've got every capability set. And as we saw from the scan, we can also now list the host system because that was mounted into the pod. So we've got full capabilities and the node's own root file system mounted inside the container at /host system. That is the whole game, and I've not done anything clever. So from the host, we can read the etc shadow file. So with the host system in there, we can simply just change root into it. And we can just do a host name, an ID, now we can actually see the host's OS, not the one running in the container. So through that one misconfiguration, we've got full control over this underlying box. And two honest notes here. If this was a self-managed cluster, so if you're running it yourself on bare metal or using Kind or anything like that, having this level access to the host's file system, we'll be able to just run off and grab the admin's kube file, which would then essentially mean we own the entire cluster. As I mentioned at the start, this is a managed cluster, so there is no admin file to go and grab. So we do still have access to the underlying host. We can jump around in the pods, but we won't be able to get admin access to the control plane in this case. And another point is that this isn't always a misconfig. Sometimes there's bugs, there's CVEs in Kubernetes itself that allow you to break out of containers like this. Now the half that actually matters, and it starts where this video started, the scan. Everything I exploited was in that first table, and here is how a defender kills every step I took. The whole surface, scan on repeat, not once. Trivy, in your continuous integration, gates images and manifests before deploy. The Trivy operator watches the live cluster, kube-bench covers the node, you cannot fix what you never looked at. The server-side request forgery, right at the start of this video, reaching internal services, a network policy. Default deny egress, so a pod cannot casually reach the metadata service or another namespace. The overpowered token, RBAC least privilege. Scope that service account down and turn off the token auto mount where the workload never calls the API. Then, can I says no, and the secret theft never happens. The escape via a privileged pod, admission control. Kyverno or OPA gatekeeper plus built-in pod security admission set to restricted. This rejects privileged pods and host path mounts at deploy time. The escape never gets scheduled. And yes, this works on managed clusters. It is the single highest value control here. And if the escape does run, runtime detection. Falco or Cilium Tetragon, eBPF at the kernel. A shell in a container, a shroot, a process reading the host shadow file. They see it, and then Tetragon can kill it, not just alert. Notice the shape. There's no single magic product. You need to scan continuously, implement least privilege, network segregation, admission control, runtime detection, everything's layered. If you break the chain at any one link, my whole run falls apart. So did I hack Kubernetes? Well, no. I just scanned it, and it drew me a map, and I walked through the doors that were already open. A reachable app, a token nobody trimmed, and a pod that should have never been privileged. And the exact same scan I open with is one command away from you. The only difference between us is who runs it first. So go run Trivy KAS against our cluster you own tonight, and then go fix the top of that list. I'm Dale, I hope you enjoyed this video. The container was never the boundary, and I'll see you next week.